My wife hid years of credit card debt, and now I resent her.
I would too, honestly.
I just uncovered what I really, really hope is everything. There were some red flags that I foolishly ignored. Here is a rough timeline. We've been together since high school and married young, 21 to 20. It was pretty clear from the beginning, and we even had conversations specifically about it, that she would handle the money. Her parents are incredible with money. They are avid couponers, exceptional investors, and mind-bogglingly frugal. By the way, this comes from Throwaway Credit Card Debt Help, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to r/OKStorytime subreddit. So, it was logical to me that she would inherit at least some of this, and since I hated everything to do with finances, it made perfect sense. Pause real quick. I wouldn't just assume, like, Sam's a terrible cook and our mom's amazing at cooking, so sometimes those don't transfer. More backstory. I am the primary breadwinner. She makes less than $10K a year from a part-time job. Shortly after we married, she got a couple of credit cards that had cashback or air mileage programs and explained to me that as long as we kept them paid off, they'd basically be giving us free money. A year before we were married, I started working as a freelance contractor. This meant I had to pay estimated taxes every quarter. Last year, tax year 2013, she offered to take over my taxes and I happily agreed. Again, I hate finances. I just told her every quarter I made X amount, so send the IRS Y amount. 4 times she told me she would. This last tax season, I found out she lied every single time. We got a massive bill and thousands of it were from the late fees alone. I only found out because I had to help and sign for the taxes. This basically wiped out our nest egg and left us owing $5,000, which we had to put on a payment plan with the IRS. She apologized and cried a lot and said she just misunderstood the estimated taxes and that this kind of thing would never ever happen again. I shrugged it off. People make mistakes. There is about $4,200 left to pay the IRS. Jump forward to this June. We moved into a new place. The city requires a credit check to turn on the water, sewage, etc. I go to the office to sign and finalize it, and to my surprise, they require a rather large deposit. I ask about it, and they said it was due to the credit check. I looked over the credit report, and it had a column that said, these items negatively affect your score. Most of them were fine, like credit history is too short, but one line really stood out to me. Average balance on all accounts above 30%. When we first got the credit cards, our limit was $2,000. So I thought, okay, $600 in credit debt isn't a big deal. I told my wife about the credit check and the large deposit, and she said something like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of let that slip this month. It'll be fine next month. What I didn't know at the time was that our credit limit had increased to $5,000 and that we were far, far past the 30%.
Wow.
Okay, wait. So your credit limit was $2,000 and you were at $5,000, or you had increased the limit to $5,000?
I think the limit was increased to $5,000 and then they were past over 30% of the $5,000.
We both know it, but we won't say.
At least, $4,000 would be $1,200, I think, if we're going off of his math. So they owe over $1,500. He said well over the 30% mark. That's crazy. Plus that $5,000 too.
Just over a month ago, I come home and sit down at the computer, which we both use. My wife comes over and sits next to me and starts telling me about her day. I close the browser window that had been open, and behind it is a PDF statement for one of the credit cards. My wife screams, "Close that!" and grabs the mouse and closes it. That's not suspicious at all. But before she does, I see at the top a massive current balance, $4,900. It wasn't exactly $4,900. There was some change. She turns bright red and looks at me with a look of, did you see that? I say something like $4,900. She breaks down and starts crying. She explains that it just got out of hand and she lost control and it's been snowballing and she didn't want to tell me about it because it was stressed me out and it was all her fault. Then she says something that still pisses me off to think about. It all started when you stopped working from home and got a job. I didn't realize you were going to make a lot less money.
Now's not the time. Even if that does contribute, now's not the time. Don't put it on him.
This pisses me off because I got a 20% raise when I stopped freelancing. It just seemed like less money because of tax withholding. And I was contributing to a 401k and our health insurance got 10 times better. So there was less cash in the bank every week, but I was making more money. Yeah, they were just spending more on stuff. to improve their life. Anyway, we have a long talk and decide that the money needs to be transparent. And honestly, you need to handle the finances. Or like get an accountant if you have the funds. Have a tax guy.
Yeah.
We set up you need a budget, and she went through and added everything in. We decided that every single week we'll go through our weekly expenses, and neither of us will spend any money without telling the other. We plan everything out and figure out that we can pay off the credit card by the end of the year if we eat super cheap and never go out. At some point during this day-long talk and planning session, I noticed she had left out the other credit card from NAB.
Oh no.
I asked her about it directly. Like I looked her in the eye and said, "What about the Amex?" She looked at me and with a straight face said, "It's like at $400 to $600. I barely ever put anything on it because it doesn't have cash back. I'll pay it off by the month, then just close it." That sounds like a lie.
Absolutely is a lie.
For some stupid effing reason, I believed her. That's on you.
That's so on you.
That's on you at that point. You are the freaking frog on the scorpion's back, and the scorpion is just stinging you. And you're like, well, scorpion definitely won't sting me again. And the scorpion's like, no way I would sting you. And then, bah.
Okay, have fun.
Stop letting the scorpion sting you.
At a certain point, it's like she's obviously making bad financial decisions because of everything that's been presented. And you are making bad financial decisions by trusting her with all of this.
Literally trusting her in any regard.
You kind of got to take some responsibility too.
After the $5,000 incident, I would have been like, we're going through everything. And if she was like, no, it's fine, I'd be like, no, we're going through everything. I'm taking over on like all these finances. We're going to talk every week. You're going to run me through everything. And then I'm going to have like final look through of everything.
At least it's like your own money. She could look over hers, sure, and then maybe I would run a review to help her out. But like my money, staying with me.
No, absolutely. And I'm not saying like you control the finances. I'm just saying you guys work together and you look at everything. Now, skip forward to this morning. I decide to check on everything because we had some minor but unexpected expenses this week. And I want to see how it affect our long-term payoff plan. I logged into the Amex account and saw that it has a balance of $3,534.
Oh my gosh.
Not only that, but I logged into the other credit card to find that it's $1,000 higher than what she's reporting in YNAB. She recorded two $500 payments in YNAB that she never actually paid. I'm looking through the statements, and where I've been living on basically chicken and vegetables, she's been eating out multiple times a week while I was at.
Oh my gosh. She's just been racking up.
It seems like she has no life skills. Like she's not able to feed herself. She's not able to take care of her finances without causing massive financial ruin for this couple. There are countless expenses that I can't account for and that go way beyond the budget we planned. Our plan to have what I now know is only half our debt paid off by the end of the year is completely botched already. Just a month in. I feel sick. I don't think I'll ever be able to trust her again. My stomach churns every time I think about her face when she told me the Amex only had a balance of $400. I'm seriously considering a divorce. Would a divorce be an overreaction? Is this something I should be able to forgive? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. And there are some relevant comments, but I mean, like, to a certain extent, this is kind of financial. I mean, there's no animosity behind it, like a malicious way, but she's still doing it. And she's still kind of ruining your whole financial plan.
And it's not much of an accident anymore. She was deliberately doing that.
She's deliberately lying to you, regardless of how deliberate her actions are.
You guys decided on a plan to how to fix this and how to pay off this thing. And she just like went against it. Sue her.
I mean, you can, to an extent, kind of, if you do decide to go with the divorce. I know that all debts incurred during a marriage would be both of yours, but you might be able to say like, hey, was not aware of these debts going into it. Like, I think there are things that you can fight for in a divorce where you can say that you were not aware that she was racking up this amount.
Yeah, that's probably possible. Dude, I'm getting a prenup.
We read so many stories that don't work out well. Relevant comments. Slim Shani says, I think you should consider counseling before jumping to divorce. Sometimes there is a lot of shame surrounding financial troubles. Also, don't let your wife be in charge of the finances anymore. I would give her one card, the both of you have an allowance, and be meticulous about your finances. This is obviously something she can't handle. She got into trouble and felt too ashamed to come to you for help. Why doesn't she work more? Do you two have kids? And OP responded, no kids. She's been off and on pursuing a degree. She dropped out last semester, then started again this semester, taking 8 credit hours. So the primary reason she doesn't work more is because she wants to finish school. We're, or I guess I am, paying for her school out of pocket. Slim Shandy says, I can hear the anger through your post. I think you should do what you can to diminish that before you talk to her about this again. I look at my finances about once a week. I figure out where our money is going and why. We have a spreadsheet that shows expected savings versus expected expenses. My husband called me while I was at work last week because he noticed I spent $5 on a protein shake. Looking at credit card statement, my online, it shows him instantly. He asked me if I lost my shaker and if he needs to prepare my shake for me so I don't forget. Dang, that is maybe too intense, I think. That's like she buys one shake. Did you lose your shaker? You spent $5? That's too intense.
That's pretty intense. It's nice that he was like, okay, maybe like I can prepare it so that we could save that money. The fact that it's on media is like, we can talk about it later.
We are both on top of our finances and contributing to our financial goals. Never leave this in her hands again. You both need to know what is going on with your money. So there's the deceit you need to deal with in addition to her not pulling her weight. Why did she drop out? What is she contributing? Does she feel a responsibility financially to you? Opie says. She dropped out after she got a failing grade on one of her tests. She dropped out of school because she got one fail on a test? Not even on the final? Not even the class? On a test?
Out of the whole school, she's gone.
She got like a D on a test. She was like, well, they hate me.
She's like, well, I can't ever pick this back up.
Impossible.
When I'm only doing school and like barely working.
She decided to switch to an easier major, but has since switched back to the harder major. I'm honestly not sure what she's contributing anymore. I do all the cooking and half the cleaning. She goes to work and school. My original thought was that as soon as she finishes her degree, she'll make up for, as her degree has a very high starting salary. I'm not sure I follow your last question. I know she's very self-conscious about her contribution to the relationship and gets very defensive anytime a conversation enters the same hemisphere as contribution. And there is an update.
Wow, there's more?
There's more. I don't at all blame you for considering divorce. It's not that, she's putting you in a really hard place financially, but it's that she's lying over and over.
Yeah, and just like using this.
First, a big thank you to everyone who gave me their thoughts and advice. It's been a month since I found the second half of the debt. Here is what has happened since. We're still together. I've taken complete control of the finances, but she can still see it all, and we're discussing finances on a regular basis, which I think that's probably not completely shutting her out. I also think she should go to classes for this. I set up Mint, big thanks to those who recommended it. It's been a huge help, though the net worth column makes me a little sick every time I see it. I have not set up a separate bank account as some people recommended. She freely gave up all her credit cards, and I hid them. I figured cutting them up could potentially cause problems if I needed to cancel subscriptions or something. My logic may be flawed, but since hiding them, exactly $0 has been spent on them. So I believe it's a safe method for now. She has a debit card she is supposed to only use for gas and groceries that are on our agreed upon list. We're now about $800 less debt, which feels like a drop in the bucket, but at least it's a drop in the bucket in the correct direction. We've managed to almost follow the budget I planned out. Unfortunately, our relationship has suffered in a big way. I have to check the transactions on her card every day, and at least twice a week there are things on there she shouldn't have bought. Wow, that's so frustrating. Like, it still hasn't changed. When I confront her about them, she always has an excuse ready. I withdrew $20 to buy Girl Scout cookies from a client's daughter, but since I can't have the cookies, gluten allergy, I told them to just take the $20.
Acting like she's Bill Gates.
I'm sorry, you gave $20 away for cookies you can't eat?
You didn't even get any cookies to give to OP?
Yeah, OP doesn't have a gluten allergy, I think. I can't bring myself to believe her excuses. I know she's lying, at least some of the time. As in, there will be a Starbucks cup left in the car. See, like at this point, this is where I'd be like, hey, did you forget that we can make coffee at home?
Yeah, right? Get that shaker thing. I'm confused really quick. He hid the credit cards and no money has been spent on those. So what is this money coming from? Debit or something?
She has a debit card. She has a debit card she's supposed to only use for gas and groceries.
Well, if this isn't agreed upon, no more card. Easy peasy.
I don't really want to start a fight over $20, and I can't tell the difference between when she's lying and when she isn't. Until a month ago, I thought she never lied. You wouldn't be starting a fight over $20. You'd be starting a fight over her lying to you. I should take a moment to say I like strong women. I fell in love with this girl when I was 18 and she was 17 because she was the most mature, independent girl my age I had ever met, among other qualities. She had a good job for 17. She was moving out of her parents' house. She had a car. That one's kind of like her parents probably got her the car.
When you're in high school, standards are low.
In short, for her age, I thought she really had her crap together. I have never wanted the nuclear stay-at-home wife. I wanted a career wife. You know, Claire Underwood from House of Cards? That's the kind of woman I wanted and who I thought I found. While we were dating, she was all about career advancement, long-term plans, traveling the world, etc. I'm concerned I had rose-colored glasses on, and because I wanted her to be a strong, independent woman, I ignored her faults, and she went out of her way to act like the strong woman she knew I wanted her to be. Whenever I find her spending money on things she shouldn't, I either have to let it go, bad I assume, or I have to ground a grown woman from her debit card, which shouldn't be your place either, which I really hate to do. I hate the idea of my wife being a subordinate or like I have to punish or police her activity. It makes me feel like an a-hole. Not to mention, it's a complete turnoff that has decimated our intimacy. It's incredibly difficult for me to want to have spicy sleep with someone I just had to scold because they broke a budget we both agreed on. Despite telling me she's sorry and she feels terrible, I feel like I'm fighting alone. It's like instead of being my partner and finding ways to help, I have to actively prevent her from doing further harm. A good example is that she has never looked for scholarships for school. I doubt she could get a free ride or anything, but she hasn't even looked because I've always been able to just pay it off immediately. I get that hunting down and applying for scholarships takes a lot of time and effort, and I have no idea if she'd get any, but she could at least look. I have brought it up and she just brushes it off as, I'll look, but I won't qualify for anything, so it'll be a waste of time. And then she doesn't look. Another example. A number of people recommend marriage counseling for us and or therapy for her. I asked her to find a therapist, and then if the therapist thought, after talking with her, that we should do couple counseling, I'd be happy to. I reminded her to find a therapist every day for the first week, and a month later, she still hasn't. I don't mind reminding her, but at this point, it's pretty clear she's deliberately avoiding it. Every day, I remind her about our debt, which upsets me, but then I get upset at myself for being upset. For example, I'll turn down going out with friends because it costs money. Then I'll think, damn it, if my wife didn't put me in debt, I could go out with her friends. And then 5 minutes later, I'll think, wow, did I really get mad at my wife because I can't go out with my friends? There are people who can't afford food, and I'm upset that I can't afford cocktail. I'm an a-hole. So I get trapped in a circle of resenting my wife, and then resenting myself for resenting my wife. I would like to avoid giving the impression that I believe myself blameless in all of this. I appreciate those who pointed it out. I shouldn't have ignored my own finances for so long. I shouldn't have dumped that responsibility on anyone. I let myself get caught up in the fantasy that I was married to a perfect, strong, independent person who could do anything. If I were to pursue a separation or divorce, I wouldn't try to escape the debt, or at least half the debt. If I wasn't supporting her or paying for her school out of my pocket, I could pay it all off in a few months. We're still together, but I haven't forgiven her, and I'm harboring a lot of resentment. I am so afraid of doing something I'll regret that I'm caught in a limbo. I won't forgive her, but I won't leave her, which isn't fair to her or myself, but I'm too afraid to do either. It's not the money. Money will come and go. It's the continued lying and the lack of effort to make it right that I am having trouble forgiving. On the other hand, divorce really doesn't sound very fun. I am afraid I could never forgive her, but I'm afraid I'd never forgive myself if I left her. And there are some relevant comments to finish the story off, but do you have any relevant comments of your own?
You're so hard on yourself. I get the idea of being like, oh, but like other people are struggling more, so like I shouldn't be complaining about this. People are always going to struggle more. It's good to be aware of that sometimes in some cases and keep that in consideration. However, for this, like just because there are people in worse situations doesn't mean that you're not in a bad situation.
And also doesn't mean that you have to be happy with the situation that you're in.
Yeah, and put up with it. And you're so young. Like what? You're in your 20s? Like early 20s? You will find more people. You will be okay. I promise you. Because now this is going to be something that you're going to look for in someone, like their financial responsibilities. And then it'll be like even more gratifying when you find that, because then it's like, I had this such bad like situation with that. So this is something that I really want now.
And also just like taking with you knowledge that you need to be more on top of your own finances. But it's just like, yeah, oh, wow, I did really drop the ball there. And someone took advantage of it. But, you know, I need to make sure that I have my eye on said ball.
Lots of things that we're learning here. Doesn't seem like she's going to get better at these things anytime soon. And this is obviously something that you're resenting her for, which is understandable. So that's okay.
Okay, Sita says, I think you should tell her it's time for her to get a full-time job. Her entire paycheck can go to the debt. I don't care if it's at McDonald's. She needs a job. OP responds, the problem with this is that I've already paid for her semester of school. She has a part-time job, and I really don't want to just throw away the tuition money I've already spent. After the semester is over, however, it's definitely an option. And there is a final update.
Oh my gosh, there's still more?
We're about to find out whether OP stayed in this relationship or divorced. Let's jump in. I don't know how to put this. We're still together.
Stop.
We're still in love. And as of today, we're debt-free.
Congrats. Okay.
You overcame it. We finally set aside our pride and went to counseling. You know what? You just needed the counseling.
That's really a lot of the fixes here in these Reddit stories.
But you know what? Your fix can be listening to full episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search up OK Storytime. But there is a little bit left to this story. She stayed in school at my insistence, but started working her butt off. She took more hours at work and took any odd job she could. Babysitting, dog sitting, house sitting. She gave up a huge chunk of her nights and weekends and massively reined in her impulse purchases. Her grades did suffer quite a bit, but now she'll be able to cut way back on work and focus much more on school. It's been 10 months, but I feel like we've matured 10 years. We're both better at communicating and money management. We've learned how to go on cheap dates, and we're both better cooks. We drink and eat out a lot less, so we're both healthier. I don't think this could have turned out better. Wow! What a turnaround! Just took 10 months. Debt-free in 10 months is pretty impressive.
Yeah, with that much debt too. Good on her.
Honestly, like, she really turned around, which is really, really impressive. Props to you guys. But that is the end of that story